Hi, I'm Una Marie Darragh. I'm the current Vice President Student Support and I'm running to be the next SRC President.
You are an experienced member of Council. You've earned just over £16,000 as a sabbatical officer for your work over the last year. Would you say that students have had value for money?
Yes, being a SAB is a full-time job, and I think that I've implemented things that will last long after my time here. So for that, I think, yes, value for money. Things like the Safe Taxi scheme that will ensure that students can get home safely if they find themselves stuck on a night out without money. That's now here to stay. Also, I started doing a lot of work with the university on preventing sexual violence, and there's going to be long-lasting infrastructure there as well. I've also successfully lobbied for condoms in halls, finally, which has taken a fair fight, funnily enough. I don't know why they've been so resistant to it in the past. I ran a very successful welfare week with more events than previous years. I'm currently in the middle of coordinating and helping out with International Women's Week, and I've made sure that students' voices are heard on a range of committees throughout the university, in particular all the equality and diversity groups that I sit on.
What are you, if elected, proactively going to do to ensure the needs of current students are not neglected as the campus redevelopment proceeds, as you say in your manifesto?
I think that it's really important with all the campus redevelopments that there's a strong student voice in these committees. You need to go into a meeting, you need to say that no, that's not acceptable, students need this, students need that. And yet it's really exciting that in 10, 15 years, campus is going to look like a completely different place, but you can't prioritise that over the current student needs. I'm going to make sure that welfare cuts are, as much as I can, that no one's going to cut any more welfare services. And I know that it's hard to try and increase funding for certain areas like the counselling and psychological services, but I will work with them, like I have done this year, to fight for more funding increases with them, but also to put some preventative measures in place to ensure that when students are waiting to get seen, that they'll have some support out with that. But yeah, I think that the main thing is to be a strong student voice, and communication as well is key there, because current students need to be involved in what's happening, they need to know what's happening, and they need to be told by the university.
Do you think that the campus redevelopment, which is already a little bit into the process, it's already a little bit into the consultation and planning, do you think that up until this point the needs of current students have been neglected, or do you think it's likely to happen in the immediate future as the process progresses?
I think the university because they're planning for this new campus and they know it's going to be big and facilitate more students, in the past years, we're getting more students than ever and we're stretched for resource. So yeah, I think current students have sort of been, not that they haven't been considered, but not as much as the university should have. It doesn't look very supportive right now when they're just putting so much money into planning for other things, almost £1 billion for this campus. That's where it will be at. It'll be more than the 775 million. But then they can't sort of spend money on other student services that they should be doing. So yeah, I don't think that looks very supportive, and I do think that they should be doing more to improve current students.
On the consultation, do you think the University of Argyll failed there so far? Do you think it's fair to say the SRC have also failed to adequately communicate to students what's about to happen on this campus in the next decade?
Yeah, I think that there needs to be a lot more consultation. I am currently on the project development board for the College of Arts relocation, and that means that I've met with students from within the College of Arts, and I've had focus groups with them, and the focus groups that I've had with our current arts convener, Kate Powell, though the stuff we got back from those sessions, we are going to now put out a survey, which actually has just gone out last week, I think, to try and get all the information that we can from all the students within the College of Arts, and with those responses we'll be able to take them back to the project development board and be like, this is what current students like, this is what they don't like, this is what they think the building should look like.
The university's student debt policy threshold was raised to £25. Students can proceed or graduate if they owe the university more than that. You've described the raising of the threshold as being tokenistic, so what should the threshold be instead in your view?
I think it is incredibly tokenistic. If you can find £5, which it was previously, you can probably find the 25. A couple of years ago it was £250, but I think the ceiling needs to be quite high for that one. And the thing that I think is most worrying is that if you have been stopped progressing, you're not going to be able to access your student finance or your SAS or any sort of funding. But if you were able to re-register, you could access that funding and you could pay hypothetically that money back to progress into the next year.
But they've only just in the last few years raised the threshold to £25. So realistically, are you going to get them to increase it to something like £250? I mean, is that a realistic objective, given the university is not looking that way inclined? I
think it's realistic. We are doing some work at the moment, actually, and we've sent some information off to CMA because we don't think what the university is doing is fair, and we don't think that it should be happening. So we're waiting on responses back from them, but I think we can. I think we can definitely raise the threshold there.
Say that you want to improve student assessment feedback across the university. How much progress do you think that you will realistically be able to make it in the space of a year?
The SRC is currently reviewing its governance and structure of council, so I think as president I'll be able to implement the changes and we'll see a very different council than the one we currently have. And part of that sort of change was different sort of forums, and we had the pilot of the academic forum, and people from the university were invited, all our council reps were there, and even at that meeting you were able to see across the board where there was good practice and where there wasn't. Some subjects are really, really good with assessment and feedback they give, but we need to know from students what is good assessment, what they want to see, and what it should be. And I think it's the sharing of that good practice across the board that will actually improve assessment and feedback.
Do you think there is going to be substantial change on this, though, in the space of the year?
I think there could be. I think the fact that the academic forum went so well and it's going to be a regular thing, and the university have said they're more than happy to come and work with council and give presentations and be involved, and the fact that they're taking it quite seriously and taking things on board, I think there could be. I think it'll be a lot of work for the next VP Education and myself, but I definitely think we can see improvements with the right people.
There's a historically low level of participation of postgraduate students with the SRC. Every year candidates promise they'll change this and nothing ever seems to substantially change. What makes you so confident that you are going to be able to change this, given that every sabbatical officer that I've known up until now seems to have a bit of a record of failure on this area?
Yeah, I've spoken to some of our current PG reps, and I think the thing that's happened is that when you look at council training, we all get trained after the autumn elections and it's like a one-day session. I don't think that's enough for our reps, and I think that sometimes the school reps sort of forget that they're not just representing undergraduate students, but actually they need to be engaging with their postgrad constituencies, and I don't think that's something we see a lot of now. So I think if we train our council reps a bit more, with more than just that one day, and we remind them that they actually need to be talking to all of the students that they represent, then I think we'll see some change there, because I think that's something that's sort of forgotten about, is the postgrads within the schools.
Does the proposal to elect a separate chair of court amount to Hong Kong democracy, as Liam King has said?
Liam is definitely very floral with his descriptions, isn't he? I think that having a chair of court elected by students, for students, is incredibly important, and the current stance in the bill threatens the democracy that we have as students at university. Student views and staff views are not the same thing, and I think that's a massive sort of conflict there.
How do you envisage the rectorship working with this elected chair of court, given the Scottish Government guaranteed that the rectorship will continue as an independent office, but the elected chair of court will almost work in tandem with it, a kind of job share? How do you see that working realistically if that becomes the case, if that becomes the law?
I don't know how I see that working realistically, to be honest. I think that it's really vital that we do have student representation on court at the highest level at the university. And that's an incredibly important voice for us, the rector, and it will be an incredible shame to see it compromised in any way.
The SRC is under financial pressure. The block grant's been frozen at $558,000 since 2014. Is it time for a comprehensive review of the services that the SRC can affordably deliver to students?
I think that, yeah, our block grant hasn't been increased in recent years, but there's a lot of initiatives that we can do that don't actually cost money. If I look at the private accommodation viewing service, which we run for students who can't come to see flats in Glasgow for whatever reason, you might be an international student or you might not live in the city, it might be hard to make it in. What we do is we've got trained students who go and they've got a checklist and they take photos, they view the flats and they make sure it's fine for students who might want to live there. And that's also providing those students who do that with a volunteering opportunity as well, that can go in there here. So I think initiatives like this, that don't necessarily cost money, but do support students and give people volunteering opportunities.
But some of the vital services, like the minibusses, for example, cost a lot of money. Now, given the SRC is under considerable financial pressure, is it time to start reviewing these services and say if we can't fund them properly, then we shouldn't be providing them at all, if we can't do it properly?
I think there is currently being a review done about the minibus service, because it was started initially as a safety scheme to get people home at nights from the library, but now it runs in the morning as well, obviously, and I don't think that it's currently maybe sustainable. I think it just needs to be reviewed. It's all happening at the minute, so once we get...
Do you need to broaden this out? Do you need to look at the SRC's entire range of services that offers, look at it in a much more holistic way, and start to look at what the SRC can affordably deliver? And if the reality is that it can't afford to be all things to all students, then isn't it time to look at a more sustainable SRC?
I think that we need to work closely. The four student bodies all bring a lot of different things to the table. Like if you look at GUSA and SRC, there's quite a lot of welfare initiatives going on. So I think the more we can join up approaches like that and work together and sort of fund things together as well, some initiatives I think we can maybe share and partner together. I think that's one way to do it. I think as well, if you think about the money the SRC makes from marketing as well, that we need to always be looking for new marketing opportunities. Look at Doddle. Doddle are now in the building and they obviously pay money to be there, so we need to keep looking for things like that.
If the SRC was to ask the university for more money, more often than not the answer would probably be no. How do you think that you could effectively make a business case to the university to fund things like vital student services?
I think I can make a good business case to the university because having been on council previously to just this year, and with my experience as Vice President Student Support, I understand how much the student-facing services are important and how much the students here need support. And I think that experience, working with the Advice Centre, being able to get student views, student opinions, and taking them to the university, and I think I could present a pretty good business case as to why funding should remain in areas where it's needed most.
What steps are you going to take to make the university and the SRC more transparent? And how are you going to personally hold senior officials in this university to account?
I think that the university needs to be more transparent, and one way by doing that is sort of to raise the profile of senior management. I don't think very many students know who they are or really what they do. Same with the SRC, we need to be more transparent. I think we should be publishing more about what we're doing. I think that college-specific bulletins could be sent out to students to let them know what's happening within their college and the welfare initiatives that are going on, what the SABs are up to and what their reps are doing, to be more transparent, because I don't think we actually communicate enough with what we're doing.
Is there a risk here that it's just going to be more things for students to not read? You're just going to basically create more information for them to sort through and potentially confuse them a bit more?
I think the SRC and the institution as a whole needs to look at what it's doing with mass emails. They just don't work, which is why I think that if we only sent out, say, once a month with all the relevant information for that month, a bit like a newsletter from the SRC telling them all the things that are happening, then I don't think that that's diluting the message too much if it's just once every so often. But I think there's a risk if you send various amounts of emails that it just doesn't work and gets lost.
What about people who have vast amounts of power in this university, you know, vice principals, the principal? Students don't know, but these people have a lot of decision-making power. Yeah. How do you make them more accountable? How does the SRC make them more accountable?
I think because obviously we sit in a lot of committees and we spend quite a bit of time with senior management on all those sorts of different things. I think that not enough of what happens in those meetings is communicated back to students, and if more of that is, then senior management will be held more accountable. But I think there needs to be that communication thing where we're telling people more about what's happening in meetings.
How does that happen though, if students are just not interested in what the SRC is doing, if they're just turned off to the SRC? How do you make sure that they know about governance issues?
I think that the best way to get people engaged with the SRC is for us to be a more active presence on campus. In my manifesto I mentioned a campaigns committee because I think we need to be a more active SRC. We need to be out there, and this campaigns committee is not just going to be council members, it's going to be exec and council and clubs and societies and any student that has an interest in what they want to do with the SRC for the campaigns for the year, for example. And I think if you get more people engaged with the SRC, even through things like Freshers Week and International Women's Week or Welfare Week, any way you can get students engaged and become a more active force on campus, then people will care more and we can start to sort of recapture an SRC that students actually care about, because I think we've lost relevance.
Una Marie, thank you very much.
Thank you.